I think you can just talk to Mr. Jitendra Chaudhary as well, Vikas.
Yes, sir.
So can we start or should we wait?
Sir, I think
We start, I think.
I have to. Hello,
You
hello. Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
talk to Mr.
I'm
Jitendra
playing
Chaudhary
the
as well,
video, sir. Video.
Vikas.
yeah, video. By
Yeah,
the
we
time
start with
people
the video.
join, by the time people join, you run the video of IAStructE.
The Indian Association of Structural Engineers, also known as IAStructE, was conceptualized and constituted in the year 2002 by a group of senior professional structural engineers from all over the country. IAStructE is registered under the Society's Registration Act 21 of 1860. IAStructE is a national apex body of structural engineers in India with a mission to promote structural engineering profession and cater to the professional needs of the structural engineering fraternity. In the short span of 2 decades, association has attained an eminent position in the professional field. Its membership is valued very highly in the profession. Since inception, IAStructE has been led by eminent structural engineers like late Shri Mahendra Raj, late Shri Kumar Ghosh, late Shri Subhash Chand Mehrotra, Professor Mahesh Tandon, Shri Manoj Mittal, Professor R. Pradeep Kumar, and Shri Alok Bhowmick as its president. IAStructE is a permanent member of Engineering Council of India and interacts with the government on professional and policy matters related to civil and structural engineers. To expand its reach, IAStructE has collaboration with various international professional like-minded associations and institutions like IAStructE, UK and FIB for strengthening global connections and professional exchange. IAStructE's prime objective is supporting and protecting the profession of structural engineering by upholding professional standards and acting as a mouthpiece for structural engineers in India. IAStructE endeavor to ensure that its members develop the necessary skill in structural engineering and work to the highest standards by maintaining a commitment to professional ethics and standards. IAStructE is actively engaged in organizing several continuing professional development CPD courses for structural engineers to help them update their knowledge and advance their career paths. It also conducts refresher courses for young and practicing engineers and student-oriented programs, seminars, workshops, conferences, technical lectures and discussions related to the latest technological advancements and case studies are also organized regularly for members to enable them to continuously update their knowledge and skill set by interacting with the best minds from the industry. IAStructE's activities are widely appreciated and known for quality technical contents. IAStructE is also actively engaged in publishing its quarterly journal Structural Engineering Digest SED, code commentaries, professional guidelines, monthly newsletter, and Crossfall, a unique quarterly newsletter that confidentially reports structural failures and the lessons learned from them. IAStructE's publications are becoming popular with time. IAStructE has representation in various technical committees of BIS and IRC as well. Its members are actively contributing to National Code of Formulations. In the year 2020, IAStructE started National Awards competition to stimulate interest in the structural engineering field and to promote innovative thinking and creativity. The awards are presented to the winners in recognition of their outstanding contribution to structural engineering in the categories which include Outstanding Structure, Outstanding Structural Engineer, Outstanding Woman Structural Engineer, Promising Young Structural Engineer, and Best Master's Thesis in Structural Engineering. Reaffirming its commitment to professional excellence, IAStructE launched the accreditation program in 2023. This flagship initiative empowers practicing engineers to evaluate their competencies, identify growth opportunities, and strengthen the foundation for sustained professional success. IAStructE is currently operating from 4 regional centers, namely Eastern, Western, Northern, and Southern, having its headquarters in Delhi to inculcate the professional culture and provide handholding to the budding engineers. Joining IAStructE offers exclusive resources, mentorship, and networking with industry leaders. Members enjoy discounted registration for workshops, seminars, and events, along with discounted membership of FIB, opportunities for certification, career guidance, leadership roles, and enhanced professional recognition. IAStructE has its student chapters in several leading engineering institutions as well. Membership of IAStructE is open to all civil and structural engineers engaged in structural engineering profession. Members are elected based on their qualifications and experience in different grades as per eligibility requirements prescribed in the bylaws. Each application is carefully scrutinized before electing the members. More information about IAStructE is available on its website www.iastructe.co.in.
So, can we start?
Yes, yes.
Well, welcome and good afternoon to all our panelists and all the participants. And we are here to discuss today a very, very important issue, that is withdrawal of a recently published code IS 1893-2025 Part 1 and Part 5, which was notified by BIS on 6th of November 2025. And till 3rd May 2026, the old code, that is 2016 version, was allowed to be used. And once it was notified, it raised a lot of concerns. And suddenly you find on 3rd March 2026, it was withdrawn. And again, it raised concerns, maybe concerns of different kind. And there have been a lot of reactions to withdrawal. It was widely published in newspaper, and seismologists, geologists, they were vehemently, were against withdrawal. And because India faces serious earthquake hazard, and this code was supposed to be state-of-art code matching with the standards of developing countries. But once it is withdrawn, so today in fact, we were expecting Mr. Jitendra Kumar Chaudhary, Assistant Director, BIS, to join us, but probably
He's
he has
joined.
not been
He has
He
joined.
joined. Yeah, he joined.
So maybe he can throw more light.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon,
Mr.
everybody.
Chaudhary. Good afternoon.
Good
So
afternoon. Good afternoon, sir.
maybe once we start discussion, he can, enlighten
Yes.
us. I mean, under what circumstances it has been withdrawn. Now, effect is it has been withdrawn, and a lot of discussions have been going on. So we are here to discuss, and we have a very large number of panelists, very eminent, experts in their own field. We have experts from industry who are very experienced in designing very difficult structure, large size structures, and we also have participation from academia, Professor Yogendra Singh, Professor Mahesh, Professor Jain, who are expert in earthquake engineering. So I'm sure we are going to have a very lively discussion. And we have divided this whole discussion into 3 parts. The first part is rationale behind the withdrawal of IS 1893-2025, whether it is justified or it is not justified. And panelists are invited to give their views. And then, is this withdrawal a compromise on safety of the structures and also human life? So that will be the first topic of discussion. And second topic of discussion will be, suppose if it is implemented in the present form, so what are the challenges? What are the professional issue, contractual issue involved? Is there any problem with the interpretation, application, regulatory concerns? So that will be the second topic. And third topic is roadmap for future. I mean, what should be done? What is advice of experts so that this code is reviewed again and then it is put to use. So these are the three topics. And before I proceed with this discussion on this topic one by one, I would like to introduce our panelists. And we have to start with Mr. Jitendra Kumar Chaudhary, and we thank him. He's Assistant Director BIS, and he knows the inside story, so he will be able to tell us what exactly happened. Then we have Professor Mahesh Tandon, and you know him, all the participants know him very well. He's chairman of Tandon Consultant Limited, and he is also past president of IAStructE. Professor Yogendra Singh is an eminent professor from Earthquake Engineering Department of IIT Roorkee, and he serves on many committees of IAS and IRC. Then we have Mr. Alok Bhowmick. He is our president, IAStructE, and he is managing director of B&S Engineering Consultants Private Limited. He is a very well-known person. I need not introduce him more. And Mr. Manoj Mittal is a consulting engineer, and he is also our past president of IAStructE. And Mr. V.N. Heggade is a founder and CEO of Decon Complete Solution, and he serves on many committees of IRC, BIS, FIB, IABSC. He has won many awards. He is also a very well-known participant. We also have Professor Ashok Jain. He's a former professor from Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. Rather, he was head of Department Civil Engineering from IIT Roorkee, and he's now a practicing engineer. And we have Mr. P.G. Venkatram, popularly known as PGV, and he's a professor of practice IIT Madras, but he's also advisor to STUP, and now it is no more STUP, actually. It is a system. And he has been CEO of L&T Infrastructure Engineering Limited for a very long time. And before that, he was CEO of L&T Rambon. He has vast experience in structural design. And we have Ms. Alpa, Sheth, a very renowned consulting engineer, structural engineer. She is managing director of UMS Consulting Engineers, Consultants Private Limited. And she also is a chairperson of CED 38, which is a BIS committee interested with preparation of code for the special structure, like tall buildings, etc. We have Professor Manish Khande from IIT Roorkee. He is also an earthquake expert. And we have Professor Pradeep Kumar. He has been our immediate past president of IAStructE, and he's director of CBRI Roorkee. And we have Partha Pritam Banerjee. He's directing Aisha India Limited and Aisha India Private Limited, and he's also HOD structure. So as you can see, all are very eminent experts in their respective field, and we are lucky to hear them. And I will go one by one. What I am thinking, I will go to industry experts first, because who are experienced in design, and later on I may go to experts from the academia. But before I start with the discussion, I will invite Mr. Jitendra Kumar Chaudhary. Probably he has to go early. That's what he intimated. He doesn't have much time. So he can tell us what exactly happened and what BIS is going to do now. Mr. Chaudhary, you are on mute. And before we proceed, I will request participants to put their question in question and answer box. Not in chat box, but question and answer box. If time permits, we will definitely take up the question. Yes, Mr. Chaudhary.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ahuja, for the welcome. And of course, I thank IAStructE for organizing this panel discussion. Definitely, it's a very important topic for discussion. And I also glad to meet all the respected eminent experts in the field of earthquake engineering. Many of them I can see as member of the BIS committee, as Mr. Ahuja has already mentioned. So regarding this topic, just want to brief that basically this 2025 revision of IAS 1893 has been taken up based upon this is a tripartite agreement between NDMA, BIS, and as well as IIT Madras. So IIT Madras had carried out this probabilistic seismic hazard assessment study, which was awarded and funded by NDMA and monitored by the both NDMA as well as BIS. So, and that outcome from the PSHA study has been taken up as the basic input for the revision of the earthquake hazard as well as a revision of the earthquake zonation map of India in this present version of IAS 1893 2025. So as you are all aware that PSHA is basically most scientific approach and internationally accepted methodology in almost all the countries. Even when recently Nepal has also adopted in its seismic design code after the 2015 Nepal earthquake, which has happened in Kathmandu. So accordingly, the committee has also thought that let us also align our hazard as well as the zonation map based upon the PSHA approach. So that study was initiated in 2019 and completed in 2023. And the entire detailed report of the study is available on the website of NDMA. And so that study we have taken up, and we have in our earthquake committee, we are also having the MAP subcommittee, which was regularly monitoring the progress of PSHA, and thereafter in 2023 we have finalized, after the making the consensus among all the members of the committee, the map has been finalized, and thereafter the provisions of the standard has been initiated. Discussions were happening, almost we took around 1.5 years for doing all the provisions, and then in 2024 we have issued the draft in wider circulation for inviting public comments. So that was the whole process, and then in finally in March 2025 we came to conclusion, and both the part 1 as well as part 5 has been published. So after the publication, we have received, of course, many concerns and issues have been received from the structural engineering fraternity, from some of the scientists also, earthquake scientists also, that there are some concerns regarding the revised provisions, and particularly focusing upon, because this is a very comprehensive change which we have made from the 2016 version and then 2025 version. So people were not much able to basically connect with the changes what we have done in the present revision. And of course, I would also like to mention that since many of the people are requesting for the handbook and commentary, the committee has already debated those points while making the provisions and clauses. And so, but the thing is that we were a little bit late in making the commentary. So that's why, of course, the problem of understanding the revised clauses has came to all the practicing engineers and the consultant people. So that was one of the aspects. And the second was regarding what Secretary Mahua has mentioned in their letter, that there are, along with the technical changes, there are many issues with the economical aspect also regarding the costing also, because the part 5, which are particularly related with the buildings, so that will be going to affect the seismic design and changes for all the buildings in every different zones of the seismic zones of the country. So that was also one of the aspects, although the representation came from the metro authorities, but of course there will be some issues for the regular residential buildings or tall buildings or other kind of structures. That also point we need to look upon. So there are what we have received, we have discussed in the last meeting of our committee also, that many of the people were asking that we also need to do the proper cost study, means in every zone, for every category of structure, we need to compare the cost aspects from 2016 edition and 2025 version. So that also aspect we can consider, that how much impact is will be there if we will utilize the provisions of this revision on the cost estimates of different typologies of buildings. So that was the second aspect. And third was regarding the not much stakeholder consultation has been done upon the revised provisions. So for that, we have already informed that BIS will be doing in the next coming 5 to 6 months, we will be doing a set of stakeholder consultations with all the groups, different groups of stakeholders, in which basically all the government ministries, all the private consultancy bodies, academic institutions, public sector undertakings. So all the different sets of stakeholders consultation will be organized, and there also we will be inviting them to come along with their adequate, means I will say more specific concerns regarding the clauses of the standard, and of course the understanding also. And simultaneously, we will also, along with the review of the provision, we will also work upon preparing the commentary also, so that next time when we'll be going to release the standard, we are also having the handbook or the commentary also for the understanding of the clauses. So this is all the thing which we have debated so far after withdrawal of the standard. So I hope the background is clear to everybody. So that is all from my end. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. You have told us that you will be analyzing cost part and you will also contact various stakeholders. Only thing is,
Yes.
when you say you will analyze cost part, I don't know how you are going to do it, because there are large variety in structures. You have dams, roads, buildings, bridges. How you are going to do that? Because the cost part varies from structure to structure. Maybe you have still to think about it. Okay, very good.
Sure.
Thank you very much. And
thank you.
And anybody has any questions to ask from Mr. Chaudhary, because he may leave after some time. And if you have something to ask him, why you may ask him, please. You may raise your hand and ask. And if not, then we go to the next. Tandon Saab wants to say something. Tandon Saab, you are on mute. Mute pe hai Professor Tandon.
Jitendra, I wanted to check out how much was the time given for after the wide circulation for comments.
So, sir, based upon the consultation and recommendations of CD 39, we have issued both the drafts for a period of 2 months, basically, for the commenting. And maybe even after that 2 months also, we have received the comments. So that also we have taken into consideration.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is
But
a
I'm
good
sure-
input.
No, but I'm sure Professor Chaudhary has explained that how they're going to consult other stakeholders, that he has already explained. And that will be a better way of doing it, particularly in view of the comments by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Thank you, Mr. Chaudhary. And let us take up the first topic.
I think there is a hand raised by Shikande, I think.
Yes, Professor
Professor Manish.
Professor Manish Shekande, yes.
I just need for record that Mr. Chaudhary's opinion. What is the policy of BIS with respect to socio-economic conditions of our country?
Is coming, I think.
The voice is not clear. Voice is not clear. We are not able to hear you, Professor.
Maybe he has checked in
I think there is an echo.
device, I think.
Some echo is coming, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
So if you are you? No. There's a lot of disturbance, Professor. We are not able to hear you.
Is it any better now?
No.
No. Are you on two devices? Are you on two devices?
No.
Maybe you can. Whatever you want to ask, you can put in the chat box. We'll see what exactly you want to say.
And sir, you can remove your headphones so that it may take. Disconnect your headphone.
Okay. Okay, fine. So is it
now it is
better?
clear.
Good.
Okay.
Now it is good. Now it is
It's
good.
good. We can hear you. Yes, please.
Yeah. Jack was in wrong socket.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I just want for BIS position on record. What is the policy with regard to socio-economic conditions? Can the safety standards of developed economy are directly applied directly to the context of Indian economy? That should set the benchmark for all discussion. Please note that India is not even 3,000 USD per capita economy. And we are talking about, I have been hearing about the discussion about international standards and developed country standards. Those standards are blindly copied from American system, which is 80,000 US dollar per capita. Design codes are supposed to be minimum load specifications. So what is BIS position policy in this regard? Okay.
So let me, sir, answer. As of now, what we were doing at present basically, and also in the future also basically, that all the design standards, I'm not talking about only the earthquake code, it's about the concrete code also, steel code also, and for the other structural codes also. Since BIS is basically the national standards body, and in BIS we are having all the, that all the standards, Indian standards are formulated by, we have different technical committees on all the different aspects, different subjects basically. So just like in the case of earthquake, I would inform that it is CED 39. So this is technical, completely technical committee in which we are having the representation from all the different stakeholders of the country, ranging from the R&D, academia, to the practicing engineers, to the government users, user bodies, everybody. So the primary role of the technical committee is to formulate the technical guidelines and the requirements for the earthquake design. As you have mentioned, sir, that the primary intent of the code should be to provide the minimum design load requirements for which, so that our structure, our building should be able to resist the lateral loads and their effects. So that is the primary intent for every safety code, whether it is a wind design code or it is a earthquake design code. So as of now, this is the practice till date, basically.
Mr. Chaudhary, you are evading the question. My question was, what do we understand by the acceptable safety? That question is directly related to economy. Acceptable safety cannot be decoupled from economic status. You have not touched upon this aspect. My pointed query was specifically with respect to socio-economic status.
Yeah, Dr. Shikande, can we discuss that during the discussion rather than,
Sure, I just wanted to
getting bogged down here itself. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted, since Mr. Chaudhary is going out, I just wanted to have it on record. What is the BIS policy in this regard?
Yeah, it's a very large question actually. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, not only earthquake, it also applies to, other codes also. I mean, to consider socioeconomic structure and set the standard for the safety. I mean, that's a very wide question. And Mr. Chaudhary has noted it. He may not have immediate answer immediately right now. But it's a good question. I mean, we cannot compare ourselves with the developed countries. Our standards cannot be same as for the developed country. That is what he is saying. Because that is making, what he wants to probably say, that's making the structure very, very costly. So we have to think about that. So anybody else? Otherwise, if anybody else has to ask something from Mr. Chaudhary, or we go to the next.
If you permit me, I can just have a remark, not a question.
Yes,
to
please.
what is being discussed. My understanding is that BIS is basically a technical body, as Jitendra has mentioned, and this balance between the safety and the economy is basically not the lookout of BIS. It is if safety has to be compromised because of the economy, that is a policy decisions to be taken by the government of the day. And if we are claiming on one hand that we will go to 2047 Vikshit Bharat, a developed nation, we are on the other hand saying that our safety needs to be compromised because we are not as good or as rich as America. Then this is a conflict. So my understanding, I may be wrong. Others can give their own opinion.
Yeah,
but in my
Alok,
view,
Alok, you are not correct.
Okay, anyway, that you can always counter. But in
It's
my
important
view,
point he has made.
BIS role, whether it is in IAS 456, IAS 1893, where we are talking about the margins of safety, load factors and all, we are not bringing in the cost factor in that to say that, okay, now it is increasing cost, so we should reduce the load factor. We don't say that. Nowhere so far. Thank you. I don't know whether one should talk now or we should, otherwise we'll get bogged down.
Yes.
I have only one comment to say that we should certainly find out what is the cost implication of making such drastic revisions. If we are ignoring that totally, that is also not correct. We may be a technical body. Agreed. No doubt about it. Okay, I think let's not get bogged down.
Right, sir. Right.
So Manoj, you want to say something?
No, nothing. You can continue.
Okay. basically, one has to strike a balance between the cost and the safety, because ours is a poor country. Our resources are limited. So that's a very valid question, but it's also debatable whether then somebody may say we are
Already
compromising
we
safety.
have one hand
I
raised.
also have, if you allow, one
Mm.
point of view here.
Yes, sir.
Yogendra Singh.
Yes, please.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
again, sir.
I mean, economy definitely needs to be considered, but we have to also understand what is a better policy economically to do rehabilitation after an earthquake, or to spend some money in the beginning so that we need less rehabilitation. We have to spend less on rehabilitation after the earthquake. So this aspect also we need to discuss when we are discussing economy.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let us go to the first topic, which is whether the withdrawal of this code is justified or not justified. What is the rationale behind it? And whether the withdrawal compromises the safety of the structures and human life. So this is the first topic. And because we have a large panel, I will go to first Professor Mahesh Tandon, who is our senior most consultant. Professor Mahesh Tandon, your views on this. The withdrawal is justified, not justified, and is the withdrawal a compromise on the safety of the structures?
Thank you, Rajiv. I think that you have answered the question yourself, but let me say, going back a little bit, this is done by the deregulation cell of the Prime Minister's office, because that is something which Mr. Jitendra, for obvious diplomatic reasons, has not mentioned. Now, what I want to say is that at the theater, at the altar of doing ease of doing business, that is their sort of URL, ease of doing business. At the altar of that idea, if you are sacrificing safety, resilience, human lives, it is not such a good idea. That is one thing. But it is also a very strange way of that is the deregulation. We should question the strange way in which they are doing business. I mean, is this the way that without discussion with the technical people and putting them face to face with whatever their technical people are and discussing it, we just take a unilateral decision? I mean, this is something which is, I think, not correct. And this is not the first time. This is the second jolt within a matter of, I don't know, couple of months. And this is not the way in which we should proceed further. I think this deregulation cell has to be told. We can't tell them anything because we have no approach. We have no meeting point. But BIS certainly has. And they should bring their technical people and let us have a discussion on it. Not that I'm saying that our whatever we have produced in the 2025 code is all first class and it is without a flaw and all that. I mean, the first thing is that there is a problem of cost, and I would like to take that up in the second part of it. I will show you some 3 or 4 slides to prove to you that there is a tremendous effect of cost. You cannot ignore it. So, but at the moment, I think I better allow other people to say their word.
Okay. Professor Tandon, probably what you are saying, the manner in which it has been withdrawn, that is not acceptable. But it has been withdrawn, and the instruction is it should be reviewed. Not that it is totally withdrawn. It should be reviewed, keeping concerns of the other stakeholders. That's what has been said. Okay. Then let me go to the next speaker, Mr. Alok Bhowmick. Next time, Mr. Alok.
Yeah. So
your views whether this withdrawal is justified or not justified, and is it a compromise on seismic, resilience?
Okay, thank you, Rajiv. Well, obviously, I think it is very clear that it is not justified at all. Rather, it is, I would say, disappointing. It is unprecedented. It brings into question the credibility of not only the committee, but also of BIS, the autonomous body BIS. Their functioning also is now put to question by the deregulation cell. And look at the background. I don't want to repeat what Tandon Saab said, but look at the background. It is based on what? It is based on a letter from Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, which is basically based on feedback from metro authorities, and who have claimed that there is an increase of whatever 30 to 50%, etc. But the fact of the matter is the metro code has not been published yet. The code published is only related to building. Part 1 is a general code, but you cannot apply part 1 without having a specific part code which relates to viaducts, bridges, or if you are complaining about liquid retaining structures. That code is not yet printed. So the premise on which this increase in cost has been mentioned is unfounded. And unfortunately, despite that, instead of discussing this basic issue and getting clarification from the committee or through BIS, a drastic step has been taken. So it is certainly unjustified. Number one. Second, you see, there is a known fact, known to all probably experts here, that our current hazard maps are basically an underestimation, a gross underestimation of the seismic. And considering the fact that we are a growing economy with large infrastructure, development taking place, we are taking much greater risk now by shifting or withdrawing this code. And the next, I don't know when this will come again. Till such time, we have a code which is where the zoning was done in 2002. And fortunately, in 2002 also, when this major change in this zoning was done, it got passed without any question, simply because it came 1 year after the Bhuj earthquake. And that earthquake has actually helped getting cognizance of that particular code. Probably if this 2025 version had come after a major earthquake in India, it would have passed without a single question being asked. The problem is this, that after 24 years, when you bring a new code with drastic changes, where the impact of cost is so high, then naturally you have allowed a small infant to grow like a big elephant in 24 years. And it is very difficult to accept. It's understandable, natural. If the same thing had come in, 3 installments, things probably would have been entirely different. But the big question that I think Professor Mahesh asked, and the fundamental question is, we need to decide what should be the safety standard in India, what kind of seismic hazard is acceptable. You see, the science part, I'm not much, so I'm not an expert on the seismic science. That's a part where the seismic scientists will do, who has prepared this probabilistic seismic hazard map. You see, and this work has been has been done in 16 years, over 16 years. So one can question the seismic zoning map or the hazard, but it will not be much different in whatever opinion comes. I don't think. So the fact of the matter is, for example, in 1897 Assam earthquake, there is a record in the books which very clearly says that the boulders went up. There is a book I have read, an international book, where it is mentioned that the acceleration was more than 1 g, and whereas we are designing with 0.36 g. So there is no denying that the forces are likely to increase. I fully agree with Professor Tandon that while we bring out a new code, the cost impact has to be studied and explained in a proper way. And otherwise, obviously it will, and if required, even that increase can be toned down to begin with, and then maybe, brought it up in next phase, in maybe 2 phases or 3 phases. But first and foremost, a simple denial. Withdrawal means a simple denial. And you see, like this USA-Iran war, where it is easy to sort of start a war, but it is not so easy to now close the war. Even the person who started the war cannot close. Similarly, withdrawal of this code is not so, now restoring the code is not so easy, not going to be so easy. It is going to be much tougher than bringing it in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok, for your thoughts. And I straightway now go to Ms. Alpha Sheth. So Alpha Sheth, your views. You have heard Professor Tandon, Mr. Alok. What is your view?
I have slightly different views, and with your permission, I may express them. Yeah.
Yes, please.
I think there is no doubt that the way the withdrawal happened has been very unpleasant. And it has perhaps set an uncomfortable, or if you may, a dangerous precedent. But I think we also need to reflect. We had a code which had many issues that had been flagged internally and from the outside. If our approach was to brazen it out and not take heeds of the concerns which were raised, and as somebody mentioned, I have gone around in different cities, discussing this code, and the pushback I've got, the examples that they would show me about, force levels becoming 3 times and so on, was very clear indication that the community was very, very perturbed. Okay, it was very nervous. So I think if, we were trying to brazen it out and not take heed, then I think in hindsight, one should have seen such a drastic step coming. Okay, but let's invert. And let us be constructive. Let's take this initial sense of humiliation, which all of us are possibly feeling. I think let's make that an opportunity for having humility. And maybe we need to go back to the drafting table and to make changes. And I think that would be a growth mindset. I think, to say, the community doesn't really understand the code, so we have to train them to read the code. I think it's so patronizing and insulting. And I think I belong to the structural design community, and it's a bunch of very smart people. So let's not patronize them and say that they don't understand the code. That is why they are worried about it. Okay, the second point, about this code and why I think there's a problem, and why it's not being accepted, is if you have force levels which are increasing so much, what happens to the existing stock of buildings? Okay, so what I think, even as somebody who is chairing a code committee, I think one of the very basic conditions we should all understand with maturity is that you should not increase force levels, in this case seismic design force levels, in consecutive code revisions. You can't increase them by more than 25 to 30%, because that will maintain confidence and assurance that existing buildings which were built to earlier codes are not unsafe. Because you have a 1.5 factor safety, you increased it by force levels by 1.3, you still have a factor of safety of 1.25. Maybe it's a little, it's marginally lower than what you had of 1.5, but that is only for that transient 1 minute or whatever of the earthquake. Not so much of a problem. If you have force levels which are becoming, 75% more, in some cases 300% more, I think that reflects a bit, I don't know, maybe it doesn't reflect so well on us understanding, how codes work, how the built environment works. The third point, I'm sorry, but you will allow me to, because all of this is connected to the same question that you've asked. And, my point is that you're asking, is it justified? And I'm just trying to say, I'm looking at it from a structural engineer's point of view, somebody who's not associated with the code writing. Okay, so I'm taking this very, very different viewpoint. And I have had experience of actually, one of the first international, hazard map, which was done on PSHA in Gujarat, with one of the best known international company organizations which does this. I have some experience on that, and I just want to express that how are seismic hazard maps made? They cannot be made by seismologists. The seismologists will give us their data. And then what to make of this data is a techno-socio-political exercise. Very honestly, we are not armed with a lot of new data since the last revision, okay? And definitely not. Since 2016, we don't have any new data. But if I have to stretch it, I would say from the first codes made in the 1960s, prepared by Dr. Jayakrishna and others, we don't have any new surprises except for perhaps the Killary earthquake, which happened. But it's all otherwise happened in zones which we knew were seismic zones, right? Other than that reservoir-induced Koina earthquake. Now, what we have done is that we use a different method now. We have used PSHA, and we get results that say, and I've heard seismologists say very often, there's a possibility of PGA greater than 1G. Yes. And so because of that, what we have is that so many places we have now the revised PGA, which is greater than 67%, sometimes greater than 100% also. Chandigarh is one example. So let me share with you, okay? So let us understand how earthquakes behave and what happens. So let me share with you an event that happened in 2011, February 22nd, 2011, to be precise. Okay, there was a shallow earthquake in Christchurch, 6.2. Okay, it was there were a cluster of earthquakes, and that was a second set, which was first set was in September 2010. So there was this location of the Pages Road pumping station. Okay, it was in the eastern suburbs of Christchurch, and do you know what? It recorded a ground motion of 1.89 G. Record this again, 1.89 G. The peak vertical acceleration was how much? 1.51 G, and the horizontal was 0.82 G. This went on for 12 seconds during the main event. Now, let us understand, this was far, far in excess of that given in any New Zealand standards. I think at that time, New Zealand standard 1170, was there. I think it is even there today. What is the surprise of all surprises? And please remember, what did I say? It was the pumping station. Okay. The pumping station had not been designed for this earthquake, was not designed for 1.89 G with 1.51 G vertical, right? But it demonstrated notable resilience despite the extreme shaking. No collapse happened, and the pumping station remained operational enough to help in aiding the water supply recovery efforts. So I think this seismic engineering, if any of us understands, and those of us who have been to a lot of earthquake reconnaissance surveys, and I think a lot of us here have, one basic thing we need to understand is seismic safety is not a numbers game. It is not. It has to do with integrity of structures, energy dissipation ability. It has to do with confinement, with ductility, with detailing, with load path, and so on. These are qualitative attributes. They are not quantitative. And do we really address these? Do we stress on these adequately in our code? Or do we improve, do we actually improve our specification on this in our revisions? Or do we just simply prescribe larger and larger design forces? I think this is the crux of the issue we need to address. And, I'm sorry, I'm been a bit long, but I thought that your question about this withdrawal and whether it was justified, I thought I needed to say this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alpa. I think maybe at the end, we will go to Professor Yogendra Singh and Professor Mahesh to answer your questions. But let me now go to Mr. Venkatram, PGV, your views. Question, I can repeat, the rationale behind withdrawal of this code, justified, not justified, and by withdrawing, are we compromised with the safety?
Let's put it this way. My view is that as far as IS 1893, because so far I'm basically working in the bridge design field, so I don't have much bridge structures. We have not got yet the 1893 relevant to the bridge design defined yet. So if I go back and look at it and say what will be its impact in terms of cost, may not be very significant. But if I have to address the other part, the main complaint came from, or one of the complaints that's been mentioned has come from the metro divisions. If I were to ask, they have got so many irrational practices built into it, which are actually adding to the cost. They are already adding to the cost wastefully, not logically. Wastefully just because they say, I want a railway safety is prime important. They have, I'm not going against that mantra, but that also should have some logic behind it. It should say the safety is ensured by these, this is the extent of safety. Unfortunately, quite often that is not the case. So if I have to put cost as an aspect, I can already pick so many holes in their current processes which are adding wasteful cost. My question is not therefore cost will come if it is rationally spent, and the rational spending on cost will come when you add additional code. Here it's only the identification of seismic hazard levels, and that is a rational process throughout the world. You cannot, the question is how do I use this hazard to design a structure? What level do I provide the safety? That choice is still left with us. So there are supplementary standards to be built on this hazard recognition, which you can take care of your relative ideas about what should be the safety level, what should be the economic conditions. All that can be built up in that. And that's how most countries do. And in fact, lot of our design standards have been experiential. What some of the previous speaker mentioned about the New Zealand, many of the so-called energy absorption were discovered after studying the structures which have passed through earthquakes much higher than what they are designed for, and that they survive. And from that point of view, we understood that yes, it is not necessary that you have our linear process of assigning the force based on the acceleration. There are other ways in which you can do the ductility, you can manage energy absorption, you can manage energy dissipation, and thereby economize on the structure. So what it would possibly mean as a whole society of structural engineers, we may have to relearn a lot of our design processes that we are adopting right now. We are so used to elastic methods, maybe we'll have to upgrade our knowledge to be able to use inelastic methods also. In order to, because these are all extreme events we are describing. We are not describing an earthquake that will happen every other day. We are not that kind of a country, right? So we can have the risk level defined based on the return period. We can have the risk level mitigated by means of using the design approaches. So there are many ways to mitigate, therefore, to I am looking at this as a fact that say, look, I don't know how to assess the hazard. My view was 1893, 2025 was basically redefining the hazard level. What you do with that hazard level and design is still to be taken. The building part was covered, possibly. I am not, I play in ignorance. I have not used the building design part of it at all, so I can't say much about it. But there are other parts to be built up, say stack-like structures, bridges, and all of them have to be come up. And at that time, we can take care of all these aspects that you're thinking of in terms of magnification of the design effort, or rather the cost aspect that will be implied on all these structures. That's my viewpoint.
Thank you, PGV. PGV actually is not only seismic hazard map. There are other provisions in IS 1993. In fact, Mr. Alok Bhowmick made a comparison of the forces, seismic forces, in various zones. And in some cases, it is increasing by 60-70%. Because the part 1 is general provision. It applies to all kinds of structure. So one can easily make out, if you calculate the seismic coefficient, make a comparative study which Alok has done. And he presented that the forces can be as high, can increase by 60-70% in some cases, if not all.
In some cases, when you say that some cases, the qualification problem, for example, let us take a look back at historically what have happened. Before the Koina Dam site earthquake, that used to be zone 2 or zone 1, I don't know, recall what. But after that event, that whole patch was upgraded to zone 4 or zone 5, if I'm not mistaken. So if I were to do a calculation, I'll say in and around Koina, the seismic hazard and design forces have multiplied by 4 times. I could come to such a conclusion. Therefore, but to say that affects the whole country, not true. Similarly, if you look at this zonation map, maybe 80-90% of the country, the change is there, but not this significant. The question is the remaining 20% or 25% of the country where you anticipate or you have assessed that the change is too much. I'm very sure there's a reason for why, because the study has taken 16 years to take up. They must have reviewed a hell of a lot of data to arrive at a conclusion to say that this is a real seismic hazard in this zone. So it can affect certain portion drastically, But vast majority of the country, I suspect, may not be that significantly impacted in terms of the economics of it.
Okay. So, well, we have a very large panel. I'm at a loss to whom I should approach. Mr. Manoj?
Okay, thank you. So I think I will restrict myself to your question whether the withdrawal of IS 1893 was correct or not. I think this was your question.
Yes.
As I understand, see, ultimately the government has final authority to do anything. Okay, they can withdraw, they can order anything if they feel that that is not correct, or that is not good for the citizens or not good for the country's larger interest. So they can act in any way. So, but since BIS is a institution, and we our committees are supposed to be the technical committees and the experts, we are supposed to make the standards which are technically sound, and of course taking into consideration the various other aspects as some people mentioned regarding socio-economic conditions and the capacity of the country and capacity of our engineers and everything, how it will be implemented. So I think when we are making the standard, we need to consider all these aspects. Simply we cannot have a technically very sound standard which may cost very high or which may not be implementable. I think that is not a correct perspective. So government got some input from somewhere and then they acted. But whether they acted correctly or not, we can always debate, because if we go little before 1893 withdrawal, for the I think for the last 3-4 months, something was going on regarding National Building Code. Okay, National Building Code was not that kind of a technical part. But still, the deregulation cell of the Government of India, based on certain inputs received from someone, we don't know whom, but they simply told the BIS to first they said you withdraw the National Building Code, then they started saying you delete this chapter, this chapter. So out of the 13 chapters, I think they suggested 7-8 chapters to be removed from the National Building Code, and interestingly, BIS and also many of the committee members, they simply surrendered to the demand of the government, and simply now ultimately all those parts have been removed. And I think within next month or something, we will have a new standard that will be called not NBC but something else, and that will have only four or five parts, that too into diluted form. So that is a kind of a way our committees are working actually. So now, if we were so convinced after 2-3 years of working on the National Building Code that our standard is so good, so everything, then why our chairman and why our committee members surrendered to the government? So it means either we didn't have any courage or conviction, and ultimately we agreed to that. So now government felt they understood how to deal with these committees. Okay. Now after the 1893 was notified, same thing happened now. Some complaint came to the government, and they acted so fast. Same day letter came from the Cabinet Secretariat to the Ministry of Consumer Affairs to the BIS. At 3 p.m. letter came to the BIS, and at 5 p.m. they issued the gazette notification withdrawing the earlier one. So it was so fast. What does it mean? It means they never consulted any experts. Even in the case of NBC, I think all the engineers, they made so much effort to contact the Cabinet Secretariat, to the PMO, to all everybody. Okay, but nothing happened. Now in this case, government said, okay, you withdraw it. But I would say अगर गवर्नमेंट के पास कोई भी इनपुट था जस्टिफाइड, सो ये कमेटी के मेंबर्स को या स्टेक होल्डर्स को समझाना चाहिए था कि वाई वी आर टेकिंग दिस काइंड ऑफ एक्शन, क्योंकि इस एक्शन लेने से व्हाट हैपेंड, द क्रेडिबिलिटी ऑफ द बीआईएस and the credibility of the committee and the committee members have dented very significantly. In one of the meeting, I will tell you, I attended the Secretary, Ministry of Consumer Affairs had a meeting with us, with some of the committee members. And no, what was her comment actually? What was she trying to say? I think some of us were there actually, Alok and some people were there. She was just trying to convey that you people are old, you do not understand what are the ground realities are. Okay, she was saying something like this, and or we were just dancing on the tune of the government. सेम थिंग हैपेंड हियर. हमने अपना स्टैंडर्ड बनाया, हमने बनाने में गलतियां की होंगी, हमने उसमें कुछ भी किया होगा, हमने कोई कंसीडर नहीं किया, वो कंसीडर नहीं किया, बट यस गवर्नमेंट कैन एक्ट एंड दे एक्टेड, बट द वे गवर्नमेंट एक्टेड वाज नॉट करेक्ट. अगर गवर्नमेंट को एक्ट करना ही था तो BIS आल्सो गेव देम ए सजेशन दैट वी विल एक्सटेंड द टाइम पीरियड further for 6 months or 1 year. Within that period, the committee can review the standard further, and then they can revise the standard, whatever. But government को ने वो सब नहीं माना. Ultimately, I would say yes, government has authority to say yes or no, whatever. But the way it was done was very bad. It was not a good taste. And ultimately, regarding the impact, I don't think there will be much impact, safety or no safety, because ultimately new 1893 will come after some time. Till now we will be using 2016. So अगर 2016 आज तक अनसेफ स्ट्रक्चर क्रिएट कर रहा था तो 6 महीने और कर लेगा, 1 साल और कर लेगा, इसमें कौन सी इतनी बड़ी आफत आ जाएगी हमारे को. सो वो इतना बड़ा इशू मेरी समझ से नहीं है कि उन्होंने द वे इट वाज विथड्रॉन, दैट इज मोर कंसर्न टू मी, बिकॉज अल्टीमेटली आई एम सीइंग there will be many more such withdrawal, or now there will be bureaucratic intervention in the functioning of the BIS and the standard making. I think this is more worrisome, and that's why I say this is not a good thing. What has happened is a very, very demoralizing for all the committee members and for the BIS also. But I think this is an eye opener, and we should learn lessons. So that we start making better standards with a better understanding and which have more acceptability actually. So standard बनाने का फायदा नहीं है अगर वो implement नहीं हो सकता, या हम लोगों को समझा नहीं सकते कि ये standard का मतलब क्या है. और अगर हम standard लोगों के फायदे के लिए बना रहे हैं, safety के लिए बना रहे हैं, तो what is the why people are objecting it? They should not object, but they are objecting because there is something wrong. ठीक है, so this is my view. So I would say it is a good, I think, but not the right way doing the thing actually.
Thank you, Manoj. You have told us the ground reality, and government is of course always all powerful. We have to address their concerns, whether we like it or we don't like it.
Yes.
Okay, now I go to Mr. Heggade. I'm going to practicing engineer first, so please pardon me, Professor Yogendra Singh and Professor Manish, I'm keeping you waiting. Mr. Heggade.
Yeah, thank you, Rajiv, for beautifully so far moderating this panel discussions. I think most of the things have been already spoken. But if you ask me the question whether it is justified or not, that is irrelevant now, Rajiv, actually speaking, really, if you really ask me. However, I would like to, play a devil's advocate where government is coming from, their point of view, though it has not been explained very, neatly. I would like to get into that. Let us understand, this is not a debate between the safety and economy. The safety is non-negotiable, right? As an engineering fraternity, we all know that this safety is a non-negotiable issue. But the real question is, what is the optimal level of safety that society can sustainably afford, right? That is a question. That is where the government is coming from. They are not asking us to really negotiate, some sort of a safety compromise with the safety of the structure. Now, what has happened here? Basically, what's happened here is the seismic demand has increased, and the seismic demand increase has led to the 30 to 40% of the increase in the construction cost. Let me tell you, it is not just a construction cost. It's not just a construction cost. There is a social cost also involved. Nowadays, the word is the sustainability. Everybody is talking about, social, cost of the carbon. it is not just 30 to 40% of the economic cost, but also the social cost of the carbon also has been increased. The question is this increase proportionate to the actual risk reduction? Is there a proportionality between the risk which we have been talking about? Now, I think Alpha also has explained, and I think Mr. Venkatram also has explained that there are ways and means of, mitigating the risks. Actually, there are three earthquake which we have witnessed, on the basis of which perhaps this seismic zone mapping has been changed. One is the Bhuj earthquake, the second is the Sikkim earthquake, perhaps in 2011, and the third is in the recent past in 2015 also, the Nepal earthquake has taken place. On the basis of this, seismic zone mapping has been changed. It might have been done scientifically. As others have put it, I'm not an expert in the seismic science, so I don't have a observation on that. It must be right. It must have been done with a lot of research and the studies, and they might have come out with. But after having done the seismic mapping, it is in the engineer's hand to corroborate that with the increase in the seismic demand, and you'll have to trade off between the social cost with the seismic demand increase, and because of the increase in the demand, seismic demand, the risk which is there, that has to be traded off between the societal effects as well as the this one that has to be done. The question here is, are we addressing the problem in the right direction? The seismic zoning map can be increased, that the seismic zoning map can be revised, but there are a lot of other aspects which is probabilistic in nature, like the return period and the importance factor, and all those things. If you really look at it, I think we can really moderate, and we can always compare it with the past performances which has been taking place. Earlier earthquakes, what I understand is, most of the failures which has been happened because of not because of the the increase in the seismic force. That is because of the due of poor detailing, lack of ductility, and non-compliances in the construction. That's what I hear even in the Turkey in the recent past, which has happened. And nobody will increase the seismic demand itself. That's how it happens. So here the question is whether we are addressing this issue properly, whether we are trading off the risk with the societal impacts. That is the question. And we are inadvertently whether increasing the economic stress as well as the environmental impact by that. Ultimately, we have to remember one thing, that ultimately the cost of this decision has to be borne by the common citizen. We cannot say that it's our scientific research finding the seismic demand is increasing. We are scientists, we are the technical people. We do not understand anything about the societal impact. That stand we cannot take. That is where the government is coming from. So in a way, I think though the question you have raised, Rajiv, is basically, whether it is justified or not, that is irrelevant in my opinion. But where the government is coming from is, there is a possibility of looking into the societal impact, and the societal impact, in terms of the economic cost, even the social cost of the carbon, etc. If you really take into consideration whether it is worth increasing the seismic demand, that is a question that we can always moderate it. In terms of the return periods, in terms of the risks which has to be apportioned, all these things we can trade off between the societal impact and take a decision. That's what the government wants us to do. So that is where the government is coming from. I, in a way, agree with them. In a way, what I understand from what I heard from Alpa said, as well as the PG Venkatram, they are also saying the same thing in different words. What I could say. So it's a question of really the trade-off between the risk absorption capacity and the societal impact which is really taking place. This is what I come from.
Thank you. Well said, Mr. Heggade. The first question is not related to justification alone. It is clubbed with whether withdrawal is a compromise on seismic resilience. That is also clubbed with that. But well said, well said. I think I understand. And now I go to Mr. Partha. You have been designing a lot of metro structures, underground, overground. And I think it was initiated by metro corporations only. So,
But Ahuja, before you request Partha, can I say just one line?
yes,
What
yes.
Mr. Heggade said actually.
Mhm.
मैं ये बोलना चाहता हूँ कि गवर्नमेंट, आई डोंट थिंक गवर्नमेंट हैज डन एनी स्टडी regarding social cost or economic cost. Only thing is DMRC conveyed to them something and they just reacted. Okay, because regarding NBC also same thing happened, because they started saying that NBC compliance is very difficult, and they also started saying that building cost, any building which is designed as per the national building code cost much, very high. So that was the argument, and they said various stakeholders have told us. When we said who told you and what are the argument, what are the justification, nothing was offered. We also told them let's call them to the BIS committee to discussion. They denied. Okay, so I don't think any such thing has been done by the government. Any social cost or economic cost.
Okay.
Yeah, just one sentence I would like to add on to what Mr. Mittal said. Actually, we'll have to understand one thing. Metro has come out with the 30 to 40% economic cost. I will tell you that, according to the study, the international studies by Retd and all, the social cost of carbon is around $84 per ton carbon dioxide equivalent. 30 to 40%, if you add the social cost of the carbon, converting into the monetize it and add it to 34 to 40%, it becomes 100%. I'm telling you.
I agree with you.
Let us understand that.
You may be 100% right.
So
you may be 100%
whether
right.
the common,
but I
whether
am
the
saying
common
government
man,
has not done anything like this.
I have done
before
that.
taking any decision.
I'm telling you, that is the reason. The
Hmm.
question is ultimately the taxpayer has to, bear it. Common man on the street has to bear it, right? It has to be borne by him. That needs to be taken into consideration by the government, whether
Right.
irrespective of whether they have done the study or not.
Yes, noted. Your viewpoints are well noted. So I go to Partha now, who has been designing a lot of metro structure, and all this issue started from metro structures only, metro corporation. So you can tell us something about this, Partha.
Thank you, Ahuja sir. Actually, I will not go into the much more into detail whether withdrawal is justified or not, because every panelist is expressing their view, and there is no point left to add. Actually, only I want to say basically the withdrawal is a setback to the technical people of India. That's I want to say. Our panelist has already told that there will be much more interference of bureaucratic people on the technical things. That's correct, sir. I agree with it. And I also agree with Mittal sir that this decision, actually, what has been taken, withdrawal, it's really very fast decision, which should not be, it is not justifiable to take withdraw. It is in a very fast manner. And what Mr. Jitendra say in the beginning, now VIS will go to explain to all the stakeholder everything. So that can always be done. This code can be hold or the for 1 year. 1 year instead of withdrawal straight away, take a drastic decision. It should have been no, we are extending the time of application of new code by 6 months and 1 year. And meanwhile, our BIS could go to the all the designer of country, educate them how to use this, and they can also basically take the feedback from the designer across the country, and they can discuss with the different ministry like MOHUA, MORTH, and Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Railway for social economical aspect of implementation of the code. Coming to the sir, there is another point highlighted. This metro code has not been published, or bridge code has not been published, so there is no problem. Basically, it's correct. As per earlier notification, in November notification, the code should be implemented from June or May 2026. But metro function is something different actually. Metro is function like with three ministry. MoMA is implemented, and the design basis has been approved by RDSO, which is under Ministry of Railway, and there is a CMRS who approve the safety who provide the safety certificates for the operation, which is in Ministry of Aviation. So these metro bodies are basically bogged down into these three ministry, and I am telling you what happens, sir, because to get the approval of design basis, people, Ministry of Railway will say, okay, you need to take the seismic hazard now. That's why all the metro people or authorities wants to adopt that. And in the past, it has been seen actually, sir, okay, it has been seen okay, after project starts also, the design basis has been changed to a new code, which was not there at the beginning of the projects. But there is no, basically metro authorities doesn't have liberty to deny this thing. So that's the problem. That's why metro authorities was already, like I will say, some metro has been already awarded construction. Construction has been awarded. There also they have they want to implement the new code. So that's why there is a change. Yes, another thing is that, sir, code should be simpler. As PGV said, we are not talking about the earthquake which is coming every day. We are talking about once in a while. So I should say code should be very much of user friendly. Otherwise, it's very difficult to basically adopt all the codal provision. In the next round, sir, I'll talk about what are the implication in next. What is the cost implication that I'll come in the next round. Thank you, sir. Thank
you, Partha. Now I will go to Professor Yogendra Singh. You have heard all the panelists who are mostly practicing engineers, and the general consensus is that the way it has been withdrawn, that is not acceptable. It should not have been done. Maybe more time would have been given, and there should not be no compromise on safety. But at the same time, a balance has to be struck between the safety and socio-economical effects. So that seems the general view. So, Professor Yogendra Singh.
Thank you, Ahuja. Yeah, I mean, two issues here. While agreeing that our code, which the code committee proposed, was not ideal, that can always be improved. The way it has been withdrawn and the grounds and logic given to the withdrawal, those are unacceptable. I mean, the main reason for withdrawal is given as economic. And we have seen, I mean, first of all, I would like to argue on the calculation of economic cost itself, because when we are looking at the level of society, we are not looking only at the initial cost. We have to look the total cost. So whether as a society, the total cost will be more if we are designing our structures for lower cost, or we are designing our structures up to an optimum safety level, and then the overall cost is going to be lower. Same is also applicable to carbon cost and other societal cost. Because if an major earthquake occurs and we have to do a large scale reconstruction, then the type of the cost, societal as well as economic, that is important. Secondly, we have to also look at who is paying and who is gaining. Because in this society in which we are living, the profit is personal, the loss is social. That is public. So if the structure is constructed with economy, with lower cost, who is getting benefited? And if that structure collapses during earthquake, then who will pay for that? This is also need to be considered when we are arguing based on economy. Now, whether these forces are larger or adequate, I will not comment on that, because I also do not come from that discipline. That can be better judged by the seismologists. They can, but even from those who are opposing these forces, there is no serious effort to show that the hazard estimated is on the overestimated side. So whatever effort has been done, equal and if not equal, a comparable, an effort with comparable seriousness needs to be there to show that whatever has been done there is overestimation, and a more reasonable estimation would have been lower than that. So that type of argument is not coming. Most of the times people are arguing technical things by social problems, that it is not economical, and whether it can be implemented or not. So technical things should be answered technically, those should be argued technically, and in science there is a procedure to discuss. That procedure should be followed. So in my opinion, withdrawing the code, or I don't see it as withdrawal, actually, the permanent withdrawal. The code will come again. If there is no solid argument against that, what has been given in the code, it will come again. Because economy does not appear to me such a solid argument against the code which was proposed. So that is one thing. Second is, I was a little surprised that many structural engineers, when the code was withdrawn, many structural engineers and even professors, they started taking credit for the withdrawal. I was not expecting that, and that realized me, that made me think that why that is happening. So I could see that there was an uneasy feeling in the design community, in the academics also, and to some extent I could sense that even in the code committee there was a feeling of unease with the code, because the changes were so drastic, and some of the changes which we could not oppose scientifically, but seemed to be unnecessary. For example, one change, when this was discussed and presented in the code committee, we thought that it's one of the same thing, whether you keep importance factor separately or you multiply importance factor in the Z factor itself and present that in terms of a return period. It is the same thing. But even just now I was looking at the Q&A, and there was a question that regarding importance factor. So this merging importance factor with the return period, it has caused confusion. And in my opinion, that is avoidable. That could have been avoided. Without making any change in the numbers, this confusion could have been avoided. Similarly, the notation, entirely new notation, which is not connecting with the previous one that has been used. There are many other, when we will talk about technical things, I will discuss in more detail. There are many other things which are either half-cooked or not properly reviewed, which have been brought in the code. And together, these changes appear to be very drastic. And that was giving a feeling of unease. And here I agree with Ms. Alpa said that this is an opportunity for us to look back with humility and look at our code. And this is I will say, a boon in disguise, where we can look back and make our code more user-friendly, and perhaps it should not appear more than its content. It appears to be very drastic, and that gives a feel of uneasiness among the users. So perhaps that can be moderated to some extent. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Yogendra Singh. Well said. So may I request now Professor Manish to give his views on whatever we have been hearing so far.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ahuja. I would start by reiterating the basic premise of design codes. Design codes are intended to be the minimum specifications for ensuring safety. Safety as accepted by the society. So existing codes they actually imply the accepted safety norms by the society. In the absence of any evidence to the contrary, there is no basis for increasing the design forces whatsoever. And the only evidence that we have on the ground is from the Bhuj earthquake in major urban center. Magnitude 7+ earthquake occurred, and not a single building designed by CPWD suffered structural damage. RC building. Everybody, all structural engineers keep on blaming the 1893 code for the damage. But nobody actually addressed the issue. How many buildings? I mean, number quoted vary from several lakhs buildings suffered damage during Bhuj earthquake. But how many buildings were designed for earthquake to resist earthquakes? CPWD buildings in Bhuj, in the epicentral region, survived the earthquake without any structural damage. And those buildings were designed according to 1984 version of the code. 2002, there was only format change. The design forces essentially remained the same. And that is in essence following the basic philosophy of code revision. When the formats change, you can move to choose to switch over to new design format or whichever prevailing design practice. But in the absence of any evidence on ground, design forces should not be increased. And there is no reason why this should happen. And there have been several arguments about instances of very high peak ground accelerations being recorded. I would just mention that basic criteria for seismic instrumentation is to place the instrument in a quiet location. A seismometer is not even installed near a tree, large tree, because the vibration of the tree affects the reading of the seismometer. Where do we have the quiet station these days? All seismometers, all accelerometers, accelerographs, they are installed in the building foundation, building basement or somewhere. So the vibrations that we are recording is not really free vibration, free field vibration. And there is a whole field of literature available which talks about the increase in the recorded motion because of site-city interaction. I'm not going into that, but just to caution people against very, very rudimentary, or I would say pedestrian reading of the instrumental recording. People do not understand the earthquake ground motion. And another thing that I would like to mention, ATC 3 was the basic document which forms the backbone of all design standards. Since ATC 3, and this issue has been resolved, settled in 1980s, peak ground acceleration is not a reliable parameter for earthquake response. We are designing for structural response to earthquakes. We are not required, or we are not looking at peak ground acceleration as a single entity. And as Alpa mentioned about high PGA not having any effect on the structural response, that is essentially the case. I mean, one or two stray peaks do not make a structure respond. I mean, there are so many ways to put it. I'll not get into those details. So what was done since 1980s, since the time of Newmark Hall design spectrum was anchored at not PGA. The term used was effective peak ground acceleration. Effective peak ground acceleration was to be of the order of a factor of 2 to 3 times lower than maximum PGA that was recorded. That is because if you take any accelerogram and you keep on chopping it from the top, you will find that the response spectrum doesn't change. The change in response spectrum actually begins only after you have reduced the peak value to a value that is maybe half or even 1/3 of what was the original accelerogram. So that is how the definition of effective peak ground acceleration came about. And there are so many instances. I can cite several literature, and usually that is a factor of 2.5 to 3. And this was the Z factor or zone factor that was intended in 1893. Surprisingly, I was glancing at the 2016 version of the code. The keyword effective was omitted in 2016 version of the code. It is there in 2002. How and why that was thrown out in 2016, that is a puzzle. That is a mystery. And once that is gone, now everybody is talking about, oh, Z zone factor is a peak ground acceleration. And we have so many evidences of large peak ground acceleration. We are playing with the safety. We are compromising with the safety of the structure and safety of the people living in the building. I mean, they don't understand. People don't understand the earthquake ground motion. I'm sorry to say the code committee has not really applied their mind to spend some time reading papers from 1980s. And about the revision of the code, probabilistic seismic hazard assessment, every mathematical model has some limitation, no matter how beautiful that model looks. If you try to compute result, if you try to apply that model beyond its range of validity, results are going to be absurd. And these results are what we have seen in the code. I can explain, I can prove, I can give a very detailed explanation if required, but I will rest my case here. It is a good riddance in my view.
Thank you, Professor Mahesh. What you have told us is something eye-opener. I mean, difference between peak ground acceleration and effective peak ground acceleration. So are you saying...
I would like to add here that
yes,
this difference is well known, well understood in the community. And conventionally, what is written as PGA in our beginning seismology text, that is EPGA. So it's not that code committee has not thought about it or they don't know the difference between PGA and EPGA. Conventionally, they have started calling EPGA as PGA now.
But what Professor Mahesh is telling, that these are the whatever is given in the code are very much on higher side. Yes,
actually, yes, that may be. I'm not commenting on that, but somebody has to prove that these are on higher side.
Okay.
May I present something?
Okay, okay. Briefly, because time is running out of time.
Since I do not have opportunity to explain this to Yogendra sitting next room, so I will make use of this platform. So this is a typical case scenario of probabilistic seismic hazard assessment result. I have taken it from this. You can see the reference. I mean, Seismological Research Letters 2004. Now, the crux of the matter is it is a probabilistic model, and probabilistic models are open-ended. Log normal extends up to positive infinity. It really depends on where do you choose to draw the line, cutoff line. When Algermissen and Perkins proposed their PSHA map, which was adopted in ATC3, they only used median values. This is the median value. This is for high seismicity region, and this is for low seismicity region. You can call it as a representative of South India, and this is maybe Himalayas. So where do you look at it? Log normal distribution truncated at 1 sigma, value goes from here to here. This value is about 475-year return period. Truncate it at 2 sigma, value goes from here to here. Truncate it at 3 sigma, value goes, and this you can see the number factor of difference is more than 2, right? And this is, we are talking about 475-year return period. So the point is PSHA does not give you a unique answer unless you specify what truncation level is being used, and the code has been silent about which truncation level has been used. I searched for this information even in the paper that was published about the code revision. There is no mention of this truncation level. And there is no way you can get these values unless you are using truncation of 3 sigma, which is the default setting in most of the PSHA computation engines. Right? Now, my question that brings me, now that we have introduced this value of sigma, dead load, which remains constantly acting on the structure, even dead load is capped at 1.65 sigma. How are we justifying taking an accidental load like earthquake to 3 sigma? Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's a wider debate, and I think BIS, I hope they will take note of this view. Now, and I go to Dr. Ashok Jain, who has been waiting very patiently. Sorry, Dr. Ashok Jain. Please give your views.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. See, most of my points have already been covered by the previous speakers, especially Ms. Alpa Sheth and Dr. Manish. So I won't take much time. I'll only say that the forces have increased to 3 times, especially in zone 6. And still, if you look at the 1893, part 1, it clearly says that you should expect a lot of damage, significant damage, in spite of increasing the force by 300%. So my question is, once you increase the demand by 300%, still you are saying in the code that one should still expect a serious damage to the buildings, even if you have used base isolated structures. So I find it very strange that, whether the code committee has confidence in itself. Second point is that have you taken into account the code committee? What is going to be the strategy to strengthen and retrofit the existing structures, the structures which are under construction, and those in the pipeline? Is it possible even to strengthen or retrofit most of those structures? If not, then what do we do? Okay, thank you. And one more thing, this about PGA. Yeah. I fully agree with Dr. Manish that PGA is not the right parameter. It should be the effective PGA. And PGA also has to be related with the duration of the pulse. PGA by itself is meaningless. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's already 5:10. So for next question, I will not go to each and every one. Rather, I would request panelists to raise their hand, whosoever wants to speak, so that we save the time, because we have to have some time for question answer session. There are already 53 questions. So next question is, suppose if this code is implemented in the present form, what are the challenges? Challenges in design, in implementation, in regulatory enforcement, contractual issues, professional issues. So what are the issues we might face if this code is implemented as it is? That's my question. So whosoever wants to speak may please raise his or her hand. Okay. So I go to first Alok, Bhowmick. Okay, let me go to Professor Tandon, then Mr. Alok, Mr. Manish, and Partha. Yes, Professor Tandon, you are on mute.
Yes. So what are the challenges?
If we have to implement this code as it is, what are the challenges?
Yeah. What are the challenges?
Yeah.
The challenges are that many of the structures, especially bridges, like I'm talking about segmental bridges, you may not be able to even design because of the vertical acceleration, which is now made equal to the lateral acceleration. There is no difference between the two. What used to be 2/3, that has disappeared. So we are getting, I could show you figures, but we are getting some 0.875 in places where we were getting some 0.35.
Vertical
There is
acceleration.
such an enormous amount of difference that is taking account of all the provisions of the code, what they exist in the 2025 version. It may not be possible to even design some of the structures. The whatever Metro has said, I think it is underestimated because the increase can be even more. I mean, we have in our office examined only zone 4 because there was no time to see everything. But if you say seismic zone 4, you take, let's say, soil classification D, which you find in Delhi all over the place. Then what are the implications? I mean, the forces can increase to by 3 times. That is correct. Lateral forces. Vertical forces also, which have a significant impact in bridge structures particularly. I don't know about buildings whether it is affected that much, but in 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 uh, in metro structures particularly, it will be enormous, that change. And I think that saying that about 50% more may be increased in some cases is not something which is false or something like that, because I can show you slides of the calculations as to how the forces, or rather, I would say the seismic demand has increased. And we are not in that position. And why Metro has given such a taken such a step is obvious. You see, you cannot overnight increase the demand level to such an extent that it becomes impractical. Where are they going to get money for the extra costs? Many of the metros, or most of the metros, are borrowing money from these world, Japan and many European countries, etc., to be able to even make the metros. And they have to give full justification for it. After giving the full justification, you suddenly say that the cost of the structure has increased by 50%. I mean, it is very difficult for them to explain this to anybody. So just because of this code, we cannot accept this type of an increase in seismic demand. If it has to be done, it should be done over 2 or 3 steps, so that if you want to reach here. And in any case, this code is not something with such drastic changes given 2 months for comments after the wide circulation. That is not adequate. For a normal code, maybe, but when you are making such a drastic change, maybe it should be, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, 1 year. And the most important thing is that you should have had that both the codes are current. You can use any one of them for some period. I mean, like for example, in limit state design, both when it came from the working stress design, both the options were available. At least if you look at the IRC code, and that was whatever time they had agreed to, let's say 2-3 years, it was even extended that period because people were still not happy. And this saying that, why didn't you do it earlier kind of thing, I can imagine that. But, unless you make a full design of a structure, you don't know the implications. We don't even know how the map is made. What are the great scientific things that go into it? That is not our field. But the effect of that is certainly we can assess. So it's unless you actually carry out a design on the basis of the code, the new code as it exists today, you will not be able to find out what are the cost implications. And we, after so much of effort, have found out only for site class D and zone 4, and we find the results are frightening. That's all I can say.
Thank you,
May I
Professor.
just come for a minute, Mr. Ahuja, just to clarify Tandonji's one issue.
Yes, please.
Tandonji, you know, the vertical acceleration is not the same as horizontal. It is r times horizontal. So
Yes.
because now you don't have, you cannot have r in the denominator. So if you had horizontal as, let's say, whatever 0.1, and now it's going to be 0.5. So that is the difference. It is not only 1.5 times what it was earlier, it is 1.5 times into r. If your r was 5, it is 1.5 into 5. So 7.5 times the earlier vertical seismic coefficient. Just a clarification. Thank you.
Oh, that is for buildings. What you're saying is right. I'm
buildings,
talking about bridges, where if you take a pier, you got the horizontal forces, you got the lateral coefficient. Now you find out the vertical coefficient, and the vertical coefficient means it can go up or down. Both ways it is you have to apply, and you find that when it is the earthquake is applied upwards, you are getting a great reduction in the compressions, and that pier which was supposed to be okay is not okay even if you put 4% reinforcement, which in any case is not allowed, and you put M60 concrete in piles, which is again not the greatest idea. Even with that, it is difficult. So unless you actually do a design, you will not know the implications of it.
Thank you.
And
Thank
this
you,
business
Professor.
of this code, this code is applicable to all structures. I don't know what new thing we are going to bring up in the I think part 3, if I remember correctly, is bridges. I mean, what is the great thing we are going to bring in there? If there is going to be something great, then we should not have published this code. Let us have all the codes published simultaneously so that people can understand what is the implication in each type of structure. Because just taking this code and then Metro has got no code of its own. It's got the IRS code which we use for IRS code on seismic design. That is what we use. And we use, of course, the load combinations, etc., as given in the code. But the basic demand side is calculated by IS 1893. There is no new thing that is done in any of these codes. Thank you.
Sir, I can add here my point related to Metro. I can supplement Professor Tandon, if you allow me, sir.
Okay.
Sir, actually, everybody is only talking about the seismic hazards. Okay, there are another thing has also changes actually,
yes,
like a soil structure interaction. Okay, sir. Basically, in new code, it has been specified that dynamic soils properties should be considered in soil structure interaction. So that is one point. And as far as my understanding, in the bridge projects, all the highway bridges projects, soil structure interaction has been used quite a long time, but they are using only the static soil properties parameters. Okay. However, in Metro projects, sir, I want to say that designer are using the dynamic property, soil properties for almost 10 to 12 years by a factor, by a coefficient of factor. They are not going entirely dynamic. They are increasing the static soil properties by a factor to get a dynamic property, sir. Okay. Now, problem is that, okay, sir, new code, if you are using the dynamic properties, that is much steeper than what Metro people are using till now, designer. Yes. So now what is happening, sir? It reduces the time period, increase the spectral value. So that is one thing. Another thing is that is also increase the seismic demand. Another thing is that's an important thing, the aspect of liquefaction. Actually, the new code has made 3 major changes as far as the cohesionless soil is concerned. One is this factor of safety has been changed from 1 to 1.2 or 1.4. The resistance what we are getting for a factor of safety, that has been reduced. Basically, some factor has been reduced from earlier code. So that is also increasing the liquefaction potential. Third is that overall seismic hazard has been increased. So all totality, the liquefaction potential has increased in many fold. Third is major change is that inclusion of clay in liquefaction check. Actually, as I see, the liquefaction criteria in the new code is based on the work of Professor Idris and Professor Bullinger. In their work, basically, only specific type of clay such as Buteriger clay, capping clay, bentonite type clay, and low plasticity clays are considered susceptible to the liquefaction. But in the code, it appears that all are the clay are susceptible to the liquefaction, and you need to check all the clay for a liquefaction potential. Now, basically, this is a significant impact in Delhi NCR region also. We are now getting liquefaction up to about 22 meter, which we get in earlier code 7 meter. So it's a really impact in the metro construction. Second is that medium, sir. Earlier there was a 3: hard, medium, and soft soil. Now medium soil we are getting, sir. Here getting median can be class C, class D. Class D has a major impact, as Professor Tandon already explained. That is a major impact of seismic demand. And third is that PGV sir has told there is irrational aspect in railway bridge design. I agree with that, because in railway they consider railway should be safe. That's why there is a criteria of serviceability also in the metro or railway bridges. That may be a problem what Professor Tandon was telling. Due to vertical acceleration, segmental bridge without tension in SLS will be very difficult. So that's the point I want to say about the
when Partha says SLS for seismic.
Yes,
that's
yes,
the only
yes,
code.
yes,
IRS is the only code which
yes,
considers SLS for seismicity also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Partha.
What is emerging? Rajiv?
Yeah, sure. I just want to make one point from Mr. Tandon's discussion and Partha's discussion. I mean, we may end up with a situation where the structure becomes undesignable. I mean, because like liquefaction, if you consider,
yes,
for example, in roads, if you are having liquefaction along thousands of kilometers, how do you design that road? And it may be undesignable situation if the seismic forces are becoming so high. Okay, Alok, Mr. Alok Bhowmick, yes, please.
Yeah, so thank you. I think most of the points which Professor Tandon and Partho mentioned, they are all right, and it is scary also the way it is presented. Now, you see, first of all, let me come to the metro issues. Now, this is a dichotomy where, you see, on the one hand, the metro authorities claim or says that, we have to be safe, in fact, more than safe. And therefore, whether the code has been published or not, we would like to see its impact on running projects, ongoing projects. Normally, even if the code is published, normally the code applicability is for future projects, not for ongoing projects. Here is a case where metro authorities wants to implement a code which has not been published even before its publication, and then claims that it is 50%, 60% ISO, and they are happy if the code is withdrawn. Therefore, we design for an unsafe structure. I mean, if the new code means more safety, on the one hand, your concern is safety, and therefore you want to implement even before it is being published. On the other hand, you are happy saying that, okay, if the code is withdrawn, we have no problem. That is a dichotomy where I find, in the policy of the authorities. That said, I think I fully agree with Tandon Sahab that right in the beginning he mentioned that when we bring out a code, before that we must do this exercise, which now even Tandon Sahab and Partho is telling that, what is the impact? And from that impact, we need to revert back as to, for example, we talked about liquefaction is a high vertical seismic. So we need to then debate internally in the code committee as to, how we can sort of, rationalize it, how we can sort of, without compromising on the safety, how we can bring those into, dilute little bit from engineering point of view. Now, that said, we cannot take, there is no reason to say that just because from the old code we compare and we find that, it is exceeding, the cost is increasing by 20%, therefore you reduce or dilute the code. That cannot be the logic under any circumstances. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Professor Manish.
Yeah. See, the problem, very interesting clause has been inserted in this code 1.6 that the provisions of this code will not be applicable to nuclear related and dam structures. Because there were very stiff resistance and very strong pushback from nuclear group. I know for sure, personal interaction with people in BARC who were not comfortable with the hazard levels mentioned here. And also in the dam authority, no dam can be designed for these numbers. That's a separate issue. And then very convenient way out has been adopted by the committee that, okay, we keep these nuclear structures and dams out of the purview of this code. Now that is an escapist attitude. A simple question, how can a nuclear structure have a hazard which is lower than what an ordinary building is being designed for in the region? So essentially 1893 places a lower bound on the seismic hazard. And by doing this, we have preempted any construction of nuclear power plant anywhere in the country.
Thank you, Professor Manish. So, is there any other viewpoint regarding implementation of the present code and the challenges? Otherwise, we
I think just one. Oh, sorry. Please.
Yes, Ms. Alpa.
Yeah, just a quick point. It's half in jest, but also half seriously. As I said, that you have the existing stock of buildings, of infrastructure. So, for example, if we are going to go ahead and we're going to have 0.6 as, the design PGA that we have to use in a certain region, and then you have a Terry Dam which has been designed for 0.36, then I'm going to say that our immediate disaster is going to be flooding. It's not even going to be an earthquake issue, So when you look at things, you will need to join the dots, and we need to have an approach which is pragmatic. I'm not trying to rock the boat or anything, but I'm just questioning that why is it that, a lot of countries, whether it is the United Kingdom, whether it is the United States of America, whether it is Canada, whether it's New Zealand, why do they have most of their codes, driven by practicing engineers rather than by professors? Because, code writing is not only about, I would say, scholastic excellence and depth of knowledge, but it's also about a certain wisdom that you get about behavior of structures, about the practical applications that are possible. So I'm just kind of raising this issue because I think it has already been discussed and talked about that, I think by Tandon ji, that, we really didn't pay too much attention to whether this code and its provisions are applicable. And I think that when you look at the way the codes are written in other countries, I think the first thing they look at is, okay, does this make sense? Can people do it? What is its impact on the existing structures? As I said, anything more than 25 to 30% increase in your force levels means all your older structures are unsafe, and that's going to be a serious problem. So I think a more pragmatic approach to code writing and code revisions perhaps is called for.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, Professor Tandon.
I have one.
Yes.
I just want to understand from Professor Srikande. I think when they say that it is not applicable to the nuclear structures, actually the nuclear structures are already considered to be a safety structures, and they've got a different guidelines, AERB code for that. Like there are two types of design has to be done. One is the safe shutdown seismic, as well as when it is in operation, safe operation. There are two conditions. It doesn't mean that they are not adopting the new revised zoning maps, Professor Srikande, if I'm not mistaken.
As I explained in that slide,
Yeah.
PSHA results are not unique. For the same return period, you can have multiple outputs, multiple results corresponding to the same return period, depending on at which level you truncate the log normal distribution.
Okay.
Okay. So and the code, 2025 does not mention anywhere which truncation level has been used, but from the numbers that I see, my hunch is they have used 3 sigma, which is the default setting in most of the PSHA computing engines.
Right? Does it mean that nuclear structures are not designed as per the new zoning maps, which has been
they are too high. The hazard level is too high, and it is not economical anyway.
No, it is not economical, but it is
so
not
effectively. Effectively, they do site-specific study, but the the point is the social fallout or anything, social unrest or public hearing. You cannot justify designing a nuclear power plant structure for a value which is lower than what is specified in 1893.
Maybe doing the site seismic
whatever you do, sir, there is an overriding condition that 1893 is the bottom line. You do not explain. How do you explain it to the common people? Common building के लिए तो आप ये force ले रहे हो, nuclear power plant के लिए आप कम force के लिए design कर रहे हो.
No. I don't think, you see, they have a code. AERB has a code for design of the safety structures. There are 2 seismic conditions over there. I explained to you.
This confusion.
But the basic, my understanding is basic seismic zoning maps are applicable to that. Even though
that I think dam people and nuclear people were also part of that committee, and I know there were a lot of debate happened in this committee, and ultimately this was noted. This clause was noted in the.
That means zoning map is not applicable
agree to these things. Actually, there was a lot of debate happened actually on this.
Yes.
That is surprising actually.
Yeah.
How it can be.
We are short of time.
One information here I want to put in this debate. Please keep in mind, be factual. As far as the zone factor values up to zone 4 are concerned, I'm saying zone, not the place. There is no significant change. Up to zone 4, zone 2, 3, and 4, these are same. Difference has occurred only in zone 5 and zone 6, mainly in zone 6. That is the Himalayan region and Bhuj area. So,
which is 10% of the geographical area.
Yeah, so there drastic change has occurred. But in zone 2, 3, and 4, it's more or less same, and all our nuclear power stations are mostly in that area. In zone 5, earlier also we were not constructing nuclear power stations.
Many locations have changed from zone 2 to zone 4 or even higher.
That's a separate issue. That's why I said I'm saying zone, not the place. So it's not necessary that the location of the nuclear power station has changed zone by 2.
So Professor Tandon wanted to say something, but he has probably gone. Maybe he'll return. If there's no other viewpoint, we can go to the that topic. If anybody else has to say something, they may raise their
Just
hand.
if I may just add one thing which I forgot to mention
Yes.
earlier, that I fully agree with Tandon Saab that in fact from the lessons learned from of the withdrawal, I think all the codes horizontally, that is the IS 1893, 13920 and 13935 related to existing structures and also the detailing code, design code. These three should come simultaneously for any type of structure. Whether it is building or bridge, we should not only produce the first part of 1893, but do not produce the 13935 part. Then it becomes a lot of confusions and these codes should come out with after carrying out all the worked examples to make sure that it is working. Because in the process, a lot of changes will automatically come. The process itself will set things right.
This is done now. I hope this will be done now. Tandon Saab, you wanted to say something? Then
yes, I just wanted to tell you, the challenges of applying this code as it exists. One of the things is that they have 4 categories of structures: normal, important, critical, and special. And if you read, it is what is going to be the effect of in case there is damage to the structure, that decides what type of importance to give it. Now, if you ask Metro, for example, they are not going to accept that it is a normal structure. They are not going to accept that it is an important structure. They have categorized it as a critical structure. Now, critical structure has a return period of 2475 years. So that itself, the choice of whether to consider it as an important structure or a critical structure itself is variable. But what they are doing at the moment, from Delhi Metro's whatever tenders and all one has been seeing, they consider it to be a critical structure. So your forces, the demand increases because of that.
But if they had considered special structure, the demand would have increased even more.
Enormous.
So who decides whether it's? That's what I'm saying. The bottom line is this: that how can you assume that it is a critical structure and then claim that the increase is 60% and therefore it should be withdrawn?
What you're saying is absolutely right, but the code, what I understand is that the owner has to decide. The owner has decided that it is critical. So then,
if the owner wanted to reduce the cost variation, the owner could have decided that I will consider metro as important structure and reduce the cost. Why they did not do it?
No,
that's
but
a very difficult. That's
some
a difficult
guidance
decision
has
to
to be
make.
given in the code. You cannot just say there are 4 types of categories.
Sir, that categorization will come when the part 3 is published, where there will be a guideline.
भाई अभी तो part 1 की बात हो रही है. They have got all they have put.
उसमें कुछ नहीं है सर. उसमें कुछ नहीं है. उसमें लिखा है importance is for important structures.
Yes, correct.
They have not specified that metro will put under which category. That will be coming in part 3. That's
but
the
then,
point.
Sir, as
at
I
the moment, if you apply the code as it is, there is a problem with it, na? Because it is left to the
not apply, sir.
Should not
Sir,
apply.
You should not apply. That's what
So
I'm saying.
that is one of the challenges that is there. The second thing that I want to mention is the question of even the properties of the elements. Like for example, in 16700, they have told you what to do about beams, columns, walls, how you should consider them cracked, and what moments of inertia you should take. In this code, it is absolutely silent. So how are you supposed?
It is there in part 3, which is in the draft stage.
But you cannot. Then you can't publish this code as it is.
We are putting the horse before the cart. Actually, we are putting the cart before the horse.
Look, but then it should not have been. It should not have been, published and without any sort of noting or anything.
Only for buildings. It is published only for buildings.
How do you know it's for buildings? Part 1 is not
because part 5 is published.
Part 5 is for buildings.
Cannot be applied in isolation without the corresponding part 2 to 11.
No,
part
but
1 plus.
But that should be put right in
Yeah.
the introduction,
It
scope.
is there. It is there.
There
Sir.
is so many places where you have to do that, and the best thing is not to. Where is the hurry to publish this? You publish all the other relevant code which I mentioned in the beginning also. The other thing is that so much wastage of space on just thing like subsurface investigation. And what all they have written there, and it is totally contradictory to another IS code which has been published just 3 years ago. That is 1852. Whatever is written here, I mean, a simple thing like what is the depth of the exploration you're supposed to have? According to them, if you is a zone 4, for example, you have to go 20 meters below the pile tip. I mean, who will go 20 meters below the pile tip in this Lajpat Nagar area? We are getting the depth of the pile as 42 meters. So your subsurface investigation has to go to 62 meters. That's what it is saying. But it is contrary to what is mentioned in the existing code, which is the on subsurface investigation, which is 1852.
1852.
It just says 5 meters below the pile tip. And here, depending on which place you are in. So when you say costs, why they are increasing? There are all these things which are increasing the costs. And unless there is clarification what to do, you cannot just publish a code like that. I think it is irresponsible, according to me, to publish a code without giving what the scope of the code is.
But sir, you are also part of the committee.
I think all of you are part of the committee, Professor Tandon.
Yes.
You should have strongly objected to the publication.
What I said, that unless you apply the code on a live example, only then you will know what are the implications. When you read, it seems okay, force thoda increase ho gaya, ye ho gaya, koi baat nahi hai. But when you start designing, you suddenly find it is impossible to design. You are getting in a place like Lajpat Nagar, you are getting liquefaction to a depth of 25.5 meter. I mean, if the liquefaction depth is 25.5 meter, then I mean, what kind of a structure are we going to have as foundations? So it's, I think it has been
actually in this regard
a little prematurely, if I may say so.
Right. So in this regard, I think the model followed by Euro codes is a nice thing. What they do is, for example, the second generation Euro code, they have declared that it will be effective with effect from 2028. But right from 2025, 2024 end, they have started, publishing their respective codes. That is for general, for familiarity. People should, so that it's not effective, but effectively it will be implemented with effect from 2028. So they have a 3-year period, cooling period or familiarization period, I would say, where you develop so something similar, if BIS can adopt, it would be better. As and when the parts are published, you publish it, but it's not implementable till all the parts are there. And in between, if there are some changes to be done, we are free to do it. That should be the model in my view.
Ahuja ji, third question le lo.
Let's come to third one because time is running out. Third is a roadmap for the future. I mean, what should be, of course, panelists have already talked about it, but what should be the roadmap for the future? The BIS, what they should do to improve the code so that it is acceptable to most of the stakeholders. So your thought, please. I mean, you can, yes, Ms. Alpa, you have raised your hand. Yeah.
Yes. So I just wanted to bring about that. I've already, expressed what I would like, that we go back to the drafting table and look at it from scratch. Unfortunately, the messaging I have seen across from BIS and from the committee is more about the problem is not with the code, the problem is with the community not understanding the code, and we should therefore train them to understand it. I think no, that's not the problem. The problem, there are serious problems with the code. As I've said, just vertical, I just was saying that for buildings, I'm just giving you an example that now what has happened is your R factor is not there. So 5 times, your horizontal comes. On top of that, for columns, you have an overstrength factor for shear, which is a good thing because, for shear across the world, it's something which we need to understand that we need to be a little more cautionary about shear. So you have an overstrength factor. Now, in our country, in this code, what we have done is for special moment resisting frames for columns, for every force, we are saying you have to use an overstrength factor of 2. That means it is not just for shear, it is for your axial force, it is for your flexure, it is for everything. So now imagine when you are designing for, your vertical acceleration, which is now 5 times what horizontal acceleration would be, more or less, and then you're putting in an overstrength factor of 2. Even for heavily loaded, you are getting columns in tension. How is it possible? And that is where I'm saying all of us are some of us are structural engineers with 35 years of experience. I think that there is a certain I would say humility that I've used the word earlier, that we should collectively bring into the process of code writing. And we cannot be looking at the impossible situations or improbable, nothing is impossible, but improbable situations for buildings which we are designing, or for structures we are designing for typically a life of 75 years. Right. So I'm just saying that amount of understanding should inform our code writing. That's just my small point.
Thank you, Alpa. Yes, Vinet.
Yeah. I think I'll give a very brief comment. I think Rajiv, you already got an answer to your first question, though many of the people have very diplomatically said that it is not the right way to draw this code and they're not happy with the way, but indirectly everybody is of the opinion. What I see is there are a lot of problems in this code, and withdrawal is justified, though they may not be directly saying it. And that is one thing. Coming back to that, your question of how to go about it, basically, Professor Srikhande has made a very, very strong points, that our increase in the seismic demand is not evidence based. Basically, I think he has brought it out very beautifully. I think we need to re-look into that zoning map itself, and we'll have to have people like Professor Srikhande also in the code making committees who can give their views, without any problems, and it has to be discussed without any bias. That has to be, one has to go back. And I really like the pragmatism with, like Alpa said, that we'll have to take the humility in our stride, and we had to accept that I think perhaps it is not the best of the codes which we have made, and we need to relook into that. And also, I think we need to have, all of you have said that, we'll have to go back and we have to do some worked out examples and see what is the implication in terms of the economic cost. I would say not only the economic cost, even in the social cost of the carbon also has to be done. And I think the various, like the CBRI is there from the building sector, from the NHI, from the Ministry of MORTH as far as the transportation sector is concerned, and also that the marines and harbor sector, also the aviation. There are so many sectors. From each sector, the implication of this revised seismic demand, it has to be worked out, and the proper implication of that has to, after having worked out that implication, I think what is the acceptable risks we can absorb, in terms of the societal impact. We'll have to work it out. Basically, I fully agree with Prof. I really liked today's deliberation from Professor Shrikande, that you have to have the acceptable risk levels. We like to understand first what is our acceptable risk level depending upon our societal needs. What risk we can absorb it, and to that risk we will have to calibrate. Even if it is your revised seismic zone is demanding the additional seismic, there is an additional seismic demand because of the revised seismic zone. I think it has to be properly calibrated against the risk level acceptability in our society, and we have to work on that. But since it is not evidence based, I think it should never be more than whatever it was there earlier. I don't see there is sufficient evidence as Professor Markande has said, that is available with us to increase the seismic demand. That even if the revised zoning maps are also there, but you have to take care of in other ways. And also, I think we should, I think what Professor Yogendra Singh said, you change the seismic zoning maps, but you don't change the philosophy of the approach of the analysis and the design. Have the importance factor, have the same kind of approach to the design. Why you have to, go on the return period basis? You can have the same approach to the design and analysis. It's not necessary to change that. Change from it's all creating a lot of confusion. That's how we like to work out. Last suggestion, I think if the review of the code is left to the same committee, I think they will come back and say it's our scientific finding, it's our technical need. We don't understand your cost and kind of thing and all. We don't bother about it, and our whatever we have done is correct. That is the finding you will find from the existing committee. I think the committee has to be changed to review this code, in my opinion.
No. May I just respond to this? This is not correct what the view of Mr. Heggade is. The committee has taken note of the fact that we have to get the implications, the cost implications, or rather cost implications of every single type of structure in various types of zones. All this is a part of the thing that has to be done before you go back, and there is to the deregulation committee, because it is going to go there. They are the persons who have withdrawn, and unless they are convinced, it's not going to come back. So it's important to get to the answers. They have specified very clearly that there is a problem of costs, and we have identified it in the last meeting we had in 1893. They made a complete note of it, that we have to get into it, whether we like it or not. So it's what you are saying is not right. The committee is not going to say that what we've done is all right. No.
No, the same committee should review. That's it. Based on input, whatever they get.
Can I come in?
Let Alok comment.
Professor Tandon, if I was there as part of the committee, I would have said whatever I have done is right. I tell you, that is the psychology of the people. Let us accept that.
Basically, you see, what Mr. V.N. Heggade mentioned is basically confirming my initial thoughts that by withdrawal of this code by BIS, actually the credibility of the committee itself has been questioned, and it's a reflection of that. You are doubting the credibility of the expert committee, which has eminent people, and they are working for last 3-4 years. It will be absolutely wrong to say that what work has been done is all sort of wrong. That's not.
I just want to clarify that. I think that's the wrong statement you are making, Alok. I'm not questioning the credibility of the committee. I know very highly accomplished people are there, and it is led by a very accomplished people.
Right.
I think what I'm saying is, after having brought out a code for the review, if you send it back, even if I am there in that committee, I will say whatever I've done is
No,
right.
I don't think the committee members will behave that way, because in the last meeting of the committee
that is an
after
accusation.
the withdrawal,
That is an accusation you are making. I'm questioning the
no.
credibility of the committee. I'm not.
Okay, let's move forward. Let's move forward. Let's move forward. So as far as the lessons learned or what is the roadmap ahead, I would say in the roadmap is in three fronts. Number one is, of course, we have to go back to in the table again in the code committee and improve all the points which are discussed here. Will have to be taken by this committee, and code needs to be improved in whatever way so that it is acceptable. I mean, we know the mood of the government, and we have to sort of address that. Second, we have to increase our capacity development, because compliance of the code is also a problem, and the level of rigor that has been increased in this code. In order to implement that, we really need a all-out effort in the capacity development. I think after Bhuj earthquake, there was this NPEEE, NCEEE, all these efforts were made to improve capacity in the faculty. But that is a lot of work was done, I'm sure. But it has to be manifold, increased, because most of us practicing engineers are self-taught earthquake engineers. We are not really in our undergraduate level, hardly earthquake engineering is taught the way it is actually practiced. And that is the problem. I mean, even the young engineers who come out of the college, they learn earthquake engineering only in the design offices, unless, of course, they are after post graduation with specialist subject as earthquake engineering. Only you will learn a little bit. So that is one major area where we have a problem we need to address. And third is even the instrumentation, the data set, based on which people are projecting the hazard level, that also needs a substantial. So the government has to basically increase the number of data points so that we get more reliable hazard levels in future. That's, I think, the three areas where we need to move forward.
So thank you, Alok. And Professor Manish, you wanted to say something. You had raised your hand earlier.
Yeah, I was just trying to make a point that the seismic zoning map itself when it is used in PSHA setting is based on what is known as the seismicity parameter. And estimation of seismicity parameter is based on Poissonian distribution, which essentially requires independence of events. And earthquakes are in a region are obviously not independent. I mean, there are foreshocks, aftershocks, and all happening. So these foreshocks, aftershocks, and these kind of events have to be removed before you can actually get to a Poisson process model. Now, this is not an exact science. There are so many different methods of this so-called declustering. And what has been used is probably the most is the method which gives you the highest possible seismicity for the region. Right, so that is another problem. And this declustering is as I said, it is not an exact science. Somebody mentioned about 2015 Nepal earthquake. You might recall that there were 2 magnitude 7+ earthquakes on the same fault within a span of 1 month. So which one is foreshock, which one is aftershock, which one you keep, which one you remove? Right. So as I said, this is not an exact science, and declustering and this all needs to be done with a very, very holistic view of the complete picture. It cannot be a just blind mathematical exercise.
Thank you, Professor Manish. Manoj, you want to say something?
Yeah, so I think whatever Alok has said, I think I fully agree. And I think many of the points have already been discussed in the committee, and committee has already agreed that they will develop the commentary and they will do the stakeholder consultation, structured stakeholder consultations, because that was missing actually. We were just simply relying on sending the draft and requesting for the comments and all those things, but that was not happening. So now I think committee has decided, the government also want that structured stakeholder consultations should be done. I think that committee has decided to do. So most of the things I think committee has already decided. But the more important thing is that the committee or the BIS should now should do rethinking how the standards are being developed in the BIS. Because I am into various committees, I am seeing there is a lot of hurry. In many of the committees, I think the discussions are not happening the way they should happen actually. And I would say lately the quality of the standards is deteriorating day by day in the BIS. I'm very sorry to say that. And that is why we are having so many comments and negative feedbacks after the standards are published. So I think BIS should see how, because there's a hurry actually. There's a deadline. Every committee wants to publish the maximum standard they can publish in a year. So and then also they've started awarding the best committee of the year or whatever. And so I think the standard should not be made like this actually. There should be sufficient time. There should not be any hurry, and there should not be such kind of a tight timelines for developing the standards. Okay, so I think this is the one of the reason why we are having this kinds of problem. And further, I will tell you what happened after the National Building Code. NVC was the first thing where the government interfered actually. So, every time BIS, after time BIS revised the standard, they sent to the deregulation cell, and then deregulation further sent further comment. No, we do not agree with this. Change this thing also. Now, finally, I have been told that BIS have been told that now you can print this standard. Now, there is it looks like there is one more body over the BIS who will decide whether what could be published or what could not be published. This is a very, very sad thing for any technical committee or for us basically who are participating in standard making in the BIS. They are all non-technical people. I don't know why they are interfering, and the way they are interfering is a very, very bad thing. I think we as a BIS should think what we should do in this regard. Earlier, I used to think that BIS is ultimate. The committee will make the standard, they will finalize, and CDC will approve it. And CDC, after the approval, they will notify it. But now I think they are also now questioning why BIS is issuing the Gazette notification. That should be by the ministry only. That is also being questioned now. So I think BIS, apart from all the things which committee should do, but I think BIS should also do the introspection, what they should do to bring back the credibility. I think that has been dented significantly. And also, I do not know, actually I am more concerned with the National Building Code because that has gone actually. And because one time say will come, I am not that worried actually, that will come back. But NBC will never come back now. Okay, that is a permanent damage has happened to the National Building Code. And that has happened because our committee simply surrendered to the government without what I still do not know what was the compulsion for the BIS committee to agree to the government demands. If we were so confident about the standard, we should have said, yes, we agree with the standard. Whatever comment you want to give us the comment. Committee will discuss that thing, and then we will come out with the revision, whatever we think which is okay. And after that, whatever you want to do it. But why committee ultimately agreed to all the demands of the government, and also we are saying it is not good thing. I think same thing will happen to other. Now I will tell you, I am chairing one committee, SSD 06. We are publishing some standards. We have published two standards, and also various standards are in pipeline. One standard was finalized by the working group, and after reading it, I thought if we put it as a P draft or further it goes, that will have the same fate as the National Building Code of 1893. So now BIS people, even Sanjay Pant told me that you please hold this standard for the time being. This is now the right time to bring this kind of standard now. Now, this kind of a fear we are working at present in BIS. I think this is a very sad thing. I think BIS need to think what we should do now.
Yeah, Manoj, I hope there is an answer to that. And Ms. Alpa Sheth, you want to?
Yeah. So I would just like to come back to the earthquake codes. And I think, just to put it very succinctly, the Indian earthquake problem is not a problem of inadequate seismic force levels in the codes. The problem is not the codes, the problem is the implementation of the codes. I challenge anybody here who can show me a building which was designed completely as per the earthquake code of that era, of that circa. And if an earthquake had come at that time, A, did it collapse? No. Did it have such major damage that it caused injuries to people? I would challenge somebody to tell me. So if we just understand this simple fundamental issue that the Indian earthquake problem is a problem of implementation of codes and not of inadequate force levels in the codes, then I think we will crack it. But unfortunately, I mean, there was something, oh, you people are also in the code committees. I think anybody who is saying such statements is not very clear or doesn't understand in depth how code committees work. So I'm just going to stop at that point, at that statement. And, it's far more nuanced. It's far more nuanced than what we feel the situation is. But I'm just saying, let's understand what the earthquake problem is. And based on that, let's take it forward. Thanks.
Thank you. I think with this, we come to the end of this discussion. And there are some common points that, of course, the way it has been withdrawn, that is not correct. It should have been given more time. But also indirectly, it is being said that maybe withdrawal is good, and now committee will have time to review it further, taking concerns of all the stakeholders. And it also emerges that yes, code definitely requires a review, and hopefully it will be done. So with this, and I thank all the panelists. I don't know, we should take question and answer because already we are past 6 o'clock. Alok, what do you suggest? There are 74 questions.
I suggest that these questions can be, maybe we can just keep these questions, and the committee all send these questions, and maybe after a week or so, we can draft it to all.
Yeah, I think so. These question answers
Otherwise
can be
it will
sent
take
to the
another.
panelists. Yeah, it will take a couple of hours actually, because there are 74 questions and 99 chats, so it requires a separate time.
But IAStructE can, this webinar is recorded, so that can be given also to the BIS CD39.
Yes, yes.
And also these questions and our answers, so that they can take note of these.
Yes, these discussions have been very, very useful, and I'm sure yes, we will take a cue from these discussions. And Vikas, I hope you are there. All these questions can be circulated among the panelists.
Yes, sir.
And then replies can be framed and we can circulate among the attendees.
Yes, sir.
So with this, shall we close? If there is nothing else to add, then we can close it.
We can close.
So
thank you, Rajiv.
Yeah.
Moderation of such a difficult panel discussion.
What you were going to say, such difficult panelists.
And with where suddenly the and my apologies for so unpleasant conversation with the closure of the Zoom should be closed.
Yes.
Thank you. I thank you all the panelists who has spared their valuable time and participated in this discussion. And it was really thought-provoking and many new things emerged out, especially Professor Manish brought out some new points which were not in our knowledge. And I hope BIS committee takes note of that. And I also thank all the participants, their numbers have been excellent. It started from more than 450 attendees, and which rarely happens. So I thank all the participants. Without you, this discussion would not have been fruitful. So, and I wish you a happy weekend, and I close this session. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.